Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today my name is CORSET. If you're new here, thank you so much for stopping by, and if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for coming back. In today's tutorial video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys how to sew this beautiful corset blouse. So this video is the part 2. In my last video, I shared with you guys how to go about the pattern drafting and the cutting. So today we are going to be joining all the pieces we cut in the last video together to make this beautiful blouse. So without wasting any time, let's get started. So guys, in my last video, I showed you guys how to draft out the corset pattern, and after we were done drafting, we went ahead to use all the patterns to cut on our fabric. So these are all the pieces that we cut out in the last video. So these are the front pieces, and we also have the back pieces. In case you missed that video, I'm going to be leaving the link to that video on the screen right now or in the description box, so that you can go to watch that video first before coming to watch this video. Okay, so all these pieces now is what I'm going to be joining together. I will show you guys how we are going to join them together to make the blouse. So we're going to start with the front pieces. So I just placed the back and the sleeve aside. So we're going to start with the front pieces. So we cut out the lining fabric, the crepe fabric, and the net fabric. So I just placed the net fabric aside. So I'm removing the crepe fabric from the lining fabric, as you can see. So I also placed the lining fabric aside. So I'm going to start working on the crepe fabric. You're going to place it together like this. Take it to your sewing machine to sew it down. You will do the same thing to this other side. Okay, so after you are done doing that, you will do the same thing to the lining fabric and also to the net fabric. So this is what I had after I was done joining all the pieces together. So this is the lining fabric here, then this other one is the crepe, then I also have the net. So I'm going to be working on the crepe fabric now. I'm going to be drawing out, or I'll be drawing lines where I'm going to place the boning. So one of the boning is going to be on the dart line here. So I'm just using my chalk to draw a straight line here. So this is where we join the dart. Okay, so one boning is going to be placed there, another one will be placed on the other side. Then I'm going to also be placing boning at the middle. So I just folded it together so I can make a notch here and also at the bottom to get the middle of this piece. Okay, so just make a notch here. Now you're going to be connecting the two notches together to give you a straight line. So this is the middle line. Okay, just go ahead and roll a straight line. I'm also going to be sewing boning here, then I will be sewing boning on this other side as well. I already showed you guys all the materials that we need for this corset in the last video, so you really need to watch that video so that you will see all the materials I'm going to be using. I already showed it in the video. So this is the boning I'm going to be using, the Regiline boning, also known as the sewable boning. So make sure to give it 1/2 inch at the top. Then you're going to be sewing the boning directly on your fabric. So when you get to the end, you will cut it. Also give it 1/2 inch for sewing allowance. The same thing to this other side. So sew at the two edges. Like, did you see what I'm trying to explain? So that's why you're going to sew boning to all the lines that we drew. So this is what I had after I was done sewing the boning. So you can see I sew boning in this other side. I didn't draw lines there, but I decided to add boning to that side so that it will give it the structure, so that it will stand firm. Okay, so after sewing your boning, you have to iron it out very well for it to look flat like that. Okay, so I did a very good ironing. So now I'm going to bring the net. I'm going to be sewing cutting bias to the net. So I'm also going to be ruling lines where I join the dart. Okay, so this is where I join the dart here. Then I'm going to mark the middle, fold it together like this. You're also going to make notch at the middle here and also at the bottom. So we are going to be sewing cutting bias to that part as well. So I'm just going to try to connect the two dots to give me a straight line. So guys, this is it. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to take this to my sewing machine to sew. So there is no need for me to be ruling lines, it will be too much. So I'm just going to, take this to the sewing machine. I'll take my cutting bias, I'm going to place it at the top here. So I'm just going to sew it straight down. Then I will sew another one here as well. I will sew another one here. So you are going to sew as many as you can. Give it a gap of 2 inches from each other, okay? Then you sew it. Can you see, after I was done sewing cutting bias on it, you can see there are plenty. I think there were about 9 of them. So I sew 9 to it. Can you see how it is looking? So it has a gap of about 2 inches. So now I'm going to be sewing the net and the crepe fabric together. So you're going to place it on top of your crepe fabric like this. Then make sure to arrange it very well. Can you see what I'm doing? So arrange it very, very well. Then you're going to go ahead to pin it down. So the reason for pinning it down is, the net and the crepe fabric, they are fighting with each other. So you have to pin it down so that it wouldn't move out of place when you take it to the sewing machine to sew. And you can see that the crepe fabric is a little bit longer than the net fabric right now. Don't worry, we can always trim it out later. So just pin it down very well the way you see me doing. So after you are done pinning it down like this, you will take it to your sewing machine to sew. I'm just going to take it to my sewing machine. I'll just sew it together. So just sew it all around together. So guys, this is what I had after sewing. From the back, you can see, and also this is it from the front. I went ahead to cut out the excess that was at the end. Now I'm going to be bringing the lining fabric. So you will see that we have already trimmed out of the net fabric now. So it's now smaller than the lining fabric. So you have to use the net now to trim out the lining fabric so that you will have the same thing. So just do that. So after you are done trimming it out, now the net fabric and the lining fabric is the same. So go ahead and place it aside. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be bringing the cups. It's time to attach the cups to it. So first of all, I'm going to be covering the cups using my fabric. So this is the crepe fabric. You're going to go ahead and fold it together into 2 like this. Then you fold it together again, making 4 folds. Then you're going to just trim it out in a rounded shape. Can you see what I did? So you open it up like this. At the top here, you're going to mark 1.5 inches. Then at the bottom, you also mark 1.5 inches. Make a notch at the middle, just like that. So at the bottom here, you also mark 1.5 inches. After you are done marking, you're going to connect it. So connect it to meet the middle point. Then you connect it to meet the other side as well. So after connecting, you're going to go ahead to cut it out. So guys, after you are done cutting it out like this, you're going to use it to cut another one for the second cup. So after you are done cutting, so we have cut the crepe. Now I'm going to be using this one to cut on my lining fabric and also on the net fabric. So I'm done doing that. So these are the net, the crepe, and this other one is the lining fabric. So, and I did the same thing to this other one as well. So right now I'm going to be sewing the crepe fabric and the net fabric together. So you're going to place it together like this. First of all, you're going to fold it together and you will make a notch at the middle point here. So the same thing to the net fabric. You're going to place it, making sure that the notches are facing each other, okay? Then you place the net on top of it. You're going to go ahead and sew it round. After sewing, guys, this is what I have. Can you see? Now you're going to place it together. So place these 2 pieces together. Make sure that the notches are, matching. Take it to your sewing machine and sew it down. After sewing, this is what I have it to be looking like. I went ahead to use my iron to press it down. You can see. Now you're going to place your cup inside. Remember this mark that I made on the cup, right? Where the dot line is. you're going to be using it to, mark on the other cup. So just place the two cups together, then you're going to follow the mark on that cup to mark on the other cup as well. So that point is where it's supposed to be sitting on the dart line when we are joining the cup to the fabric. Now you're going to place the cup inside of your fabric like this. Can you see what I did? So place it inside like this, then go ahead to use your pin to pin it down. So after pinning it down at the side there, you're also going to pin it down at the other side, but make sure it is firm. Make sure the fabric is firm on your cup, okay? So can you see? Pin it down at the two sides. Now you're going to go ahead to pin it all around. So as you are pinning it, make sure that you are stretching the fabric to make sure it is firm on the cup. You don't want it to be looking squeezed on the cup, okay? So just go ahead to, pin it down. You also do the same thing to the other side. So just basically pin it all around. So guys, after pinning all around, this is what I had. I'll take it to the sewing machine and sew it down. So this is what I have after I was done sewing. I'm going to go ahead to trim it. So at the side here, I'm not going to be adding much allowance because the cup already have its own sewing allowance. So you will not add too much allowance there, but at the top, you're going to give it 1/2 inch for the sewing allowance for sewing the lining together with the fabric. Can you see? So this is what you're going to have it looking like. Now you're going to be sewing the lining fabric the same way. Place it together like this. Fold it together so you can make a notch at the middle point, just like this. Take it to your sewing machine and sew it down. After you are done sewing, this is what you're going to have. I made a top stitch on it. Now you're going to place it together with your cup. You're going to use it to trace out the same thing you have on your cup. So go ahead and pin it down just the way you see me doing. Then at this other side, can you see? Make sure that the sewing are matching. The sewing on the fabric and the sewing on the lining are matching up, okay? So after you are done pinning it down, can you see? I just have to repin it because it wasn't, firm. So after you are done pinning it down, now you're going to trim it out. So you're going to follow the cup to trim out on your lining fabric as well. Can you see what I'm doing, guys? So after trimming the top like that, you're also going to trim out this other side. So just watch what I'm doing. So we are trying to create the lining cup using the bra cup, okay? So that's what I'm trying to do. So after you are done trimming it out, can you see? This is what you're going to have. Go ahead and take out the pins. So guys, this is it. Can you see? We have the bra cup and we also have the lining cup. You're going to be doing exactly what you do to that cup to this other cup. So go ahead and repeat the same process here to make the other cup. And this is what I had after I was done making the two cups. You can see the cup and the lining, and I went ahead to make notch where that mark is. So where I use my marker to mark, I have made notches on them, okay? So right now I'm going to be sewing the cups to the corset to my fabric. So to do that, this place that I notched, I will make sure it is sitting on the dart line. Can you see the dart line? Make sure that notch is sitting on the dart line. Then you're going to go ahead to pin it down. After pinning, guys, can you see what I already have? Now you're going to place your fabric and the cup together. Then you're going to pin it down. You're going to be pinning everything down. So pin it down here. Place it together again, you pin it down. So if you cut your fabric well, your fabric is not supposed to be bigger than your cup, neither is your cup supposed to be bigger than your fabric. You can see everything is perfect, okay? Now you're going to go ahead and pin it down all the way to the other end. So after I was done pinning it down, this is what I had. Now I'm going to take it to the sewing machine. I'm going to go ahead to sew it down. Then I'll be sewing the other cup to the other side. So guys, this is what I had after I was done sewing both the main fabric and the lining. You can see I had to use my hand needle and thread to sew it. For some reason, my machine was just not sewing it. So after doing that, I also went ahead to sew the cups to the lining fabric. You will notice that at the middle here, I had to pleat it a little bit because the cup was a little bit bigger than the space that I have for it. So if you notice anything like that, just go ahead and pleat it. Now I'm going to be adding the yoke to it so that I'll be able to add the sleeve. So for the neck width, I'm going to measure from the middle point. I will measure 5.5 inches for my neck width. I initially marked 5.5 inches as you are seeing right now, but I later used 5 inches because the 5.5 inches that I'm marking right now ended up being too wide for me. So if you are someone of size 6 to 10, you should mark 5 inches, okay, instead of 5.5. So I marked it. So after I'm done marking, I make notches on it. So this is where I'm going to be adding the yoke. Now I'm going to bring my fabric to cut out the yoke. So to measure how long my yoke will be, remember my underbust is 13 inches. So place 13 inches on your underbust like this. So you're going to count 1 2 3 4 5 6. So what I have is 6. I'm going to be cutting it out using 7 inches. So the extra 1 inch is going to be for the allowance. So you're going to fold your fabric into 2. So how wide your fabric should be, maybe about 3.5 inches. So you're going to fold your fabric into 2, then you measure your 3.5 inches. Go ahead to cut it out. So after you are done cutting, you're going to divide it into 2. So just cut these parts to be straight. Now you're going to measure the length. I told you it's 6 plus 1 inch for the sewing allowance. So I will mark 7. I will cut out 7. So I went ahead to use that to cut the net and the lining fabric as well, as you can see on the table. Now I'm going to place the net together with the crepe. So make sure you are placing the right side to be facing you, okay? Take it to your sewing machine and sew it round. So after you are done sewing it round like this, this is what you're going to have. Now you will take the lining fabric, you're going to place it with your net fabric, take it to your sewing machine and sew it down just like this. So after I was done sewing, I went ahead to use my iron to press it down very well. So this is what I have. Now I'm going to be adding it to the front piece. So this is how it's supposed to be. At that notch, you're going to place it on it just like this. Take it to your sewing machine and sew it down. You will do the same thing to this other side. So just go ahead and sew it down. After I was done sewing, this is what I had it to be looking like. Can you see? So right now I'm going to be sewing the lining together with the fabric. So make sure that the yoke are slipping inside like that. Then you place your lining fabric together with your net. You're going to pin it down at the middle. So first of all, pin it down at the middle just like this. So after you are done doing that, so place it together at the neck area here, pin it down all the way to the end. So you are going to take it to your sewing machine to sew it down. Can you see? So just go ahead to sew it down like that. After I was done sewing, guys, I went ahead to top stitch it and also went ahead to iron it out. So I placed hemming gum inside before ironing it so that it will stay flat like this. If you don't use hemming gum to iron it, it will not stay flat, okay? So guys, look at the problem we have here. Guys, I was devastated when I saw this. I'm like, how did this happen? So it happens to be that when I was cutting on fabric, I didn't pay attention or realize that I was supposed to cut the lining fabric in a different way. So I cut everything together. So that's why you are seeing this problem. Thankfully, I had excess, lining fabric. So I decided to cut out this part. So I just decided to cut it out like this. So I cut it out and I'm going to be replacing that part with the remaining fabric that I have, okay? So just trim it out. Now you're going to place it together. So just place it together like this. Then take it to your sewing machine to sew it down. So guys, after I was done sewing it down, this is what I have it to be looking like. Now you're going to be tracing out the shape. So to do that, you're going to first of all pin it down. Make sure to pin it down at the different, angles, so that everything will stay equal. Okay, so can you see what I'm doing? I'm just trying to pin it down so that everything will stay equal. Now I'm going to go ahead to trim it out. So if you notice this problem, so just go ahead and fix it the way you see me do. So I never knew I was going to have this problem until I started sewing. So after I'm done cutting it out, it happens to be that it didn't really make any difference. It was perfect, you get. So that is it, guys. Now I'm going to be sewing the down part. So I'm going to flip my fabric inside out. So I'm going to be folding it together. Can you see it's difficult because of the bonings that we sew on it? So just place it together, pin it down just the way you see me doing. So first of all, use your pin to hold it down so that it will be more easier to sew when you go to the sewing machine. Okay, so after pinning it down, you're going to take it to your sewing machine to sew. You're going to sew like this, sew it all the way to the other end. So guys, after I was done sewing, this is what I had. I made a very big notch at that angle there. Now you're going to go ahead and turn it out to the right side. So when turning it out, it will be a bit difficult because of the bonings that we have on it. So you just have to be careful while you are doing this, okay? So take your time, be careful with it. Then at the sharp edges, you're going to use your scissors or anything that you have to point them out. So this is what I had after I was done turning it inside out. Can you see? I'm just pointing out this edge here. I'm going to go ahead to iron it out very, very well. Now I'm going to bring the back pieces. I'm going to work on the back pieces. You will notice that this particular pattern look the same. The shape is the same, and because of that, I decided to mark the top here so that I will know that this is the part that is the neck area. Please do well to do that because the shape is exactly the same thing. So take out your pattern paper just like this. Take out your pins. Now what I'm going to do is I'll place it on the table. So this part here, you can see I already marked where the zipper allowance is. So place it on it like this. Then you're going to place the net on top of the crepe. Can you see? Go ahead and sew it round. You will do the same thing to this other one. Place the net on top of the crepe. Take it to your sewing machine and sew it round. Then after doing that, you're also going to be doing the same thing to this other piece. So go ahead and place it together, the net and the crepe fabric. So this is for this. Place it together like this. Sew it round, and this other one is for this. So guys, that's what you're going to do. So just take it to your sewing machine to sew. After I was done sewing, this is what I have. So this is it. This is how it's supposed to be. Then this one here, I told you where I mark with chalk is the neck. So make sure that is the part that you place for the neck, okay? Now I'm going to be joining them together. Place it together like this. Take it to your sewing machine and sew it down. Then you will do the exact same thing to this other side. After doing that, you're going to be doing the same thing to the lining fabric as well. So after I was done joining the pieces together, this is what I have. Now I'm going to be joining the lining together with the net fabric. So place it together like this, and this other one you're going to place it together like this. You're going to be taking it to your sewing machine to sew. You're going to sew the neckline, then you also sew this part. At the end, you're not going to sew it yet. So just sew the neck and this side. Don't sew the end yet, okay? So after I was done sewing the neck, I went ahead to join the zipper allowance together. You can see I have not sewn the end because we are going to be trimming out of it. Remember that we trim out of the front. So now the back is going to be a bit longer than the front. So we are going to be trimming out of the length of the back before we go ahead to sew. Now what I'm going to do to the front piece that I have here is I'm going to be sloping the shoulder. So I just came down by 1/2 inch and I'm going to use my scissors to slope it. You can see. So after you are done sloping the shoulder like this, Now we are going to be joining the front and the back pieces together. So you're going to place the front on the back piece. You're going to place the two shoulders here together. So open the shoulder of the back, place the shoulder of the front inside, then use the lining of the back to cover everything up. Can you see what I did? Take it to your sewing machine and sew it down. You do the same thing to the other shoulder. And this is what I had after I was done sewing the shoulder. You can see you will not see the thread where you sew it. So that's the essence of sewing it that way. Now you're going to arrange it up so that we'll be able to trim out any unnecessary parts. So just arrange it from the shoulder, pin it down. Then you're also going to arrange the body and pin it down. So we are going to be trimming out the armhole of the front. Okay. So can you see what I'm doing, guys? So just pin it down at different angles. The top is already coming out really pretty. So yeah. Now, after pinning it down, you turn it to the back. Can you see? You're going to be using the armhole of the back to trace out the armhole of the front piece. So follow the armhole of the back to trace out armhole for the front, okay? Just the way you see me doing. So after you are done doing that, you're going to, cut out any unnecessary part from the sides, just like this. Now, at the end here, you're going to see that it's not even that much longer. I was thinking the back would be much longer, but I'm just going to be marking 1/2 inch, which is going to be for the sewing allowance. So I'm going to be trimming out of the back a little bit, but making sure that you give it 1/2 inch for the sewing allowance. So I already marked it. Now you're going to place the back piece together. Can you see what I'm doing? Arrange it, make sure the shoulder is matching, arrange everything. Then you're going to be trimming out of the end of the back piece. So I already used my chalk to mark out where I will trim it from. I'm just going to be trimming out about 1/2 inch from it. So just go ahead and trim it out just like this. Now after you are done trimming it out, you're going to sew the end now. So to sew the end, you're going to loosen up the zipper allowance a little bit. Now you will flip it to the wrong side, just like this. Take it to your sewing machine and sew it down. You are going to be doing the same thing to this other side. So go ahead and sew it down. So after I was done sewing it down, I used my iron to press it down very well, and it is looking flat. Now you will loosen up the zipper allowance because it's time to fix the zipper. So this is the zipper I'm going to be making use of. I'm going to start fixing the zipper from the end all the way to the top. Then I will cut out all the unnecessary parts and finish it up. So guys, after fixing the zipper, this is what I have it to be looking like, as you can see. Now it's time for me to add the sleeve. So it's time to add the sleeve. So I already went ahead to hem the down part of the sleeve. So I hemmed it and I did the same thing to the other one. Now you're going to place the sleeve together with your fabric. You're going to be pinning it down at the shoulder, okay? So after doing that, you're going to take it to your sewing machine. You're just going to go ahead and sew it. So just attach the sleeve to your fabric. So after you are done attaching your sleeve to your fabric, you're going to take your body measurement, your bust measurement divided by 2, your waist measurement divided by 2. So just, measure it, mark it out. At the hip as well, you're going to take your hip measurement. You're going to go ahead to mark it out, then you will join it. So you're going to start joining from the sleeve. So join it from the sleeve all the way to the end. So guys, this is what I had after I was done joining it together, and I went ahead to give it a very good ironing. You already saw how it looked on me in the beginning of this video, so there is no doubt that this video is one of the most simplest way of making corsets. So do want to share it so that a lot of people will be able to see, to watch as well. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you all in my next video.